Good evening. I'll call this meeting of the Cartersville City Council to order. If you'll please stand for invocation and pledge.
Let us pray. Our Father, which art in heaven, we thank you for this day of grace and mercy. We thank you for this opportunity to assemble at the seat of government, Cartersville, Georgia, to do the business of the city. We ask for your wisdom, guidance, and understanding, and the things we do be pleasing in your sight and to the citizens of this city. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Drake, the roll, please.
Carrie Hodge, Ward 1. Here. Jay Stepp, Ward 2.
Here.
Carrie Roth, Ward 3.
Here.
Calvin Cooley, Ward 4.
Here.
Gary Fox, Ward 5.
Here.
Taft Wren, Ward 6.
Thank you, Julia. First order of business is the approval of council meeting minutes from our, what was the date of that meeting? January 7th meeting. And council, you've had an opportunity to look these over. In addition to these minutes, you'll notice you did get a separate stack of a couple of meetings back in 2020 that were mismarked and Ms. Drake caught. And so in addition to approving these minutes from January 7 of 2021, we'd ask for you to correct those minutes from January 2nd, 2020 and January the 16th, I believe, of 2020 that are labeled as 2019. And so if your motion would include that along with any other edits or corrections, that would be fantastic.
Motion to approve both sets of minutes.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Minutes approved unanimously. Thank you. Mr. Lovell, we have some appointments to make that you were going to handle for us this evening.
Yes, Mayor. Every year the council gets to select new municipal court judges. It is staff's recommendation that we continue with our long-serving judge who's done a wonderful job with us, Harry White, to be appointed as our senior judge, and Jay Choate as the alternate judge. And if y'all would approve that, then Julia Drake will swear them both in.
Okay, we can handle those both with one motion?
You may.
Okay, Chair will entertain a motion if there's no discussion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And those appointments are approved. Okay. Ms. Drake, we'll turn it over to you to work your magic.
All right.
Wield your power.
Mr. White is looking forward for me. Okay, and if you'll raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the state of Georgia, that you will in all respects observe the provisions of the charter and ordinances of the city of Cartersville, and that you will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Assistant Municipal Court Judge and Municipal Court Judge, and that you will truly, honestly, and faithfully discharge the duties of this office to the best of your ability, without fear or favor, so help you God? I do, and I will. Okay. All right, gentlemen. Got one for each of you. If you'll just go ahead and
Yes.
sign up.
It's good timing for you, isn't it? Well, we hope you do. Calvin.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Mayor, I'm going to say this to you as well as other council members. It has not only been an honor, but a privilege to help the city in this capacity, and look forward to, in the past, and look forward to doing so for the next year.
Thank you.
Y'all have a good evening.
Just to note for the record, the mayor has recused himself for the next item and is turning the meeting over to the mayor pro tem.
The next item on the agenda is a first reading of the public hearing for item number Z2101.
Thank you, Mayor, Pro Tem, Council. This is a proposed rezoning to MF 14 from general commercial with special use permit. Quick history on the property. About a year and a half ago, the property was zoned with a special use permit with the underlying zone of general commercial. The applicant, making sure that wasn't me.
Where's our police officer? No.
Got a gas emergency.
The previous approval or special use permit on this property was approved for 210 apartment units above commercial or mixed use development. That did not occur. Mr. Henderson, if you recall, Barry Henderson was working with another developer at that time. Since then, the current applicants have moved forward on the same property. The overall tract is 36 acres. This is 25.79 acres of that overall tract. The new applicant is proposing 240 residential apartment units on this particular property. Approximately 10 acres is going to remain general commercial along the frontage. The overall density, 240 units on that acreage is about 9.3 units per gross acre. With that, the Planning Commission did recommend approval of this application.
Council, any discussion? Well, this is the first reading of the,
Need to ask anybody from the audience, which is
Yes.
speak on.
from the audience want to speak?
And you're opening the public hearing portion now?
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Evan Weiss with Continental Properties. Can you guys hear me okay? Yes. My address for the record is W134 N8675 Executive Parkway, Menominee Falls, Wisconsin 53051. So tonight I just wanted to provide some additional context on who we are as a company and then some more color on the project itself. So the company was founded over 40 years ago by 3 college friends in 1979. Kind of made its bread and butter back in the day as a big box developer, developing a lot of Kohl's stores as well as Kmart's and Walmart's. And then in the early 2000s transitioned to focus on multifamily. So since that point, today we have over 22,000 units in our portfolio in 18 states. And it's important to also note that these are traditionally financed, so banks and equity partners only. It's not a tax credit project or anything like that. I also want to make note that we develop, own, and manage all of our projects. So no third-party management. We're going to take ownership and give you the highest quality product possible. And then you can see that our property management staff is also consistently ranked in the top 10 for their performance. Next slide, please. This is an overview of our current portfolio, updated in early January of 2021. Kind of shows you, where we operate and where we focus across those 18 states that I had mentioned previously. Next slide, please. So the big question, why Cartersville? There's been a tremendous amount of growth here over the last 10 years, and in the MSA in general. We expect that trend to continue. There's high median incomes here. And then a great number of jobs that you can see in a short driving distance. The apartment market here is very strong with historical occupancy rates tremendously high. We also expect that rate to continue over the next several years. And then finally, we think that this product will be a good addition to your housing stock here and give you a differentiator in terms of housing types. Next slide, please. So here's a macro overview to give you a sense of where the project is located. I'm sure it's kind of hard to tell, but it's at the intersection or near the intersection of Highway 411 and Highway 20. Next slide, please. Here is the site plan that you saw previously. To give you a quick overview, it's 10 buildings through 25.79 acres, as previously mentioned by staff. There's a clubhouse at the entrance, which is really the focal point of the whole project and where everyone comes in to the site. Next slide, please. So the request tonight is to rezone the site, the parcel, from general commercial to MF14, as previously mentioned by staff. There's some additional numbers here to give you some context. Gross density of 9.3 dwelling units per acre, and then a net density of 12.96 dwelling units per acre. We're going to offer a mix of housing or bedroom types, from studios, 1s, 2s, and 3 bedrooms. And then you'll see there that they range in size from 554 square feet all the way up to 1348 square feet. Next slide, please, Emily. So the clubhouse that I mentioned, it's really a multi-purpose, multi-use component of the project. It has a 24-hour fitness facility there, a huge demonstration-style kitchen, a room that residents can rent out to host parties, and Wi-Fi throughout. The backside will feature a pool and garage doors that open up from that fitness center as well. So on the warmer days of the year, you can, work out partially inside, partially outside. Next slide, please. Here's a few pictures to give you some context of what I'm talking about. You see the fitness room, obviously. There's a barbecue station with 2 grills, the pool area, and then the inside of one of our clubhouses. Next slide, please. So here is an elevation of one of the color schemes that we're proposing for our residential buildings. It's important to note here that we are proposing a 2-story townhome style design. Every unit on the first floor will have direct access to their unit, limiting shared common space in the common areas. And then the 2nd-story units will have a stairwell that accesses 4 units. So we think that's really going to be a benefit in the post-COVID era to limit the number of common areas and tenant interaction if you're running into someone who doesn't want to wear a mask. Next slide, please. Here is the other color scheme. Again, we're really trying to show you the varied roof lines and the articulation and design and the depth and the mixture of textures that we're planning on using for this proposal. Next slide, please. Here is a more recent rendering of the clubhouse to give you a sense of scale of what it's actually going to look like and what people will see, whether they're coming to take a tour of the apartment or just coming in to talk to our staff who will be on site. Next slide, please. Here is the pool that I had previously mentioned, and then you can see the garage door that will have access to the fitness room as well. Next slide, please. Another rendering of our residential building. I think this really gives you more depth and perspective of what I was talking about earlier in terms of the architectural design of these buildings. Next slide, please, Emily. And then another color variation as well to give you a sense. So, with that, I wanted to keep it brief, but I'm happy to answer any questions. I have a few renderings of what the units themselves will actually look like, if you're curious about that. But other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Do you have any idea what your rent will be?
Yeah, great question. So it'll start out at about $1,000 and go up to $1,500.
When do you expect it to start?
So that's a good question. Assuming we make it through the rezoning process, then we would kick off design and engineering. From there, we would apply for permits with the city of Cartersville, obtain those permits, and then once we have those permits in hand, we would close on the land with the seller and then start construction shortly after, usually within the same week, sometimes even within the same day as closing. So August of this summer. I thought I answered that, but if I didn't, I'm sorry.
So I have a question for you. I know the school system, I don't think they made a comment or anything, but just from your experience, I know you're going to 24 3-bedrooms, is that right?
Yep.
Somewhere around there. What in your experience do you see the children? Do you see a lot of children? Are you making amenities for children, and do you expect a lot of families to be there with those 24 3-bedrooms?
So I'll answer it in several parts. We are very family friendly, I would say, but based on our portfolio and the size of our portfolio, we really dig into our data there. And we found across that roughly 9% of our residents have children. So to put that into perspective with this development, that equates to about 33 kids of various ages, but far less than if this were a single-family proposal with a single-family subdivision, which can get up to as high as like 80% children for a project like that. So there are going to be kids that live here, but it's not going to be that high of a number. We're estimating 33.
I know we have we have probably 3 or 4 other developments on the books.
Mhm.
Some of them have limited what they're gonna be doing, 3 bedrooms and stuff. But I think there is a market for that, in a certain amount. But I just wanted to see what your statistics were. That's great. That's great to know that.
Yeah, certainly.
Are there any more questions? Gentlemen? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And once again, this is the first reading, and it will be taken up again at the next council meeting. So we'll move to item number 6.
Stephen, would you ask the mayor to come in?
Mayor Pro Tem, I'll take that next item. It's the GDOT indemnity agreement. This is, if approved, will allow our public works to begin the process of putting sidewalks on West Avenue. And if approved, as mentioned in the work session, we will start with on the north side, basically the side of Ingalls. We'll start working out that side. It'll take us a few months time-wise, and then we'll get on the other side of the street. But we have to have this indemnity agreement in place in order to us to work on that state route.
I would just like to say thank you all because it's much needed. There's a lot of people walking on West Avenue.
Yes.
I should have, is this on which side of the street is it going to be
It's
on?
going on both sides. Initially, we're going to start on the north side, I guess is what I would consider north
The
side.
side that Ingalls is on,
Exactly,
basically, if you're looking,
yes, sir.
okay.
And then we'll get to the other side, the south side later on, but we're doing one side at a time versus if we hired this outsources with a contractor, they'd probably do both sides at one time, but we're doing in-house as our workforce has time permitted to do it.
Okay, thank you. And remind me of the funding on this again, I'm
This is
sorry.
just coming out of general fund.
Okay,
We anticipate less than $50,000 doing in-house with our personnel.
good. Thank you. Any questions on this item? If not, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Hill, you are up.
Evening, Mayor and council members. As most of you know, there's a new subdivision coming to town. It's over here on Mission Road. It's the Jackson Farm property. They are going to put in a turn lane. We have a gas main out there, high-pressure main. We're going to have to relocate it. We've talked with them. We have a contract with them. They have already signed their portion of it, and I'm asking y'all to sign off on ours. And it's, they were going to pay us some $30,970.36, which is an estimate.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Michael on this?
Are they going to be using gas in the
No,
neighborhood?
sir. Not, well, not today. You know, these folks usually put things off like that, and they may come back at the very end and want it, but I mean, we would encourage it. We'd love to serve it. But
We had discussions with them early on, but they were not willing to give us some kind of, make sure there's going to be 50% because it was cost prohibitive for us to go out there and not knowing that we're going to be able to serve so many percentage of the homes.
yeah, when we go into a neighborhood, we do it under a gas advantage program, and we get support from Southern Natural Gas Pipeline. They reimburse us for some of the installation costs, but we put the pipes, gas main services in for zero that the developers have to pay. Just they have to use certain appliances and things. But sometimes Georgia Power pays more than what Cartersville does.
Well, actually, in this situation, this is Cartersville Electric and Cartersville Water and Sewer. There's some Bartow County that'll get to on that. Basically, we're serving the water and the Cartersville Electric's got this neighborhood too.
Derek must be doing better than us.
It's service territory.
Y'all arm wrestle for it. Any other questions for Michael on this item? If not, a motion's in order.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion
Thank
carries
you.
unanimously. Thank you, Michael. Mr. Greer, while you're coming up, we're going to add an item to the agenda. Chair will entertain a motion to add that item.
So moved. Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye. Item is added. We'll get to that later, but now it's added. Just trying to be efficient. Mr. Greer, how are you this evening, sir?
I am well.
Good.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a budgeted support renewal for our two-factor authentication system. This is what we use to secure our VPN connections and logins for servers and computers in the city. It's $10,488 from CDWG, and I recommend this for your approval.
Thank you. Questions, comments, or motions?
Motion to approve.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Ms. Penny, you are up.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Everbridge, our contract is up for renewal, and this is the citizen notification platform that we use to get messages out to our citizens, whether it's trash rescheduling, that's actually very big, very popular. Everybody wants to know if that date moves. Maybe it's a weather update. We have severe weather moving in. We can alert them that way as well. Or road closures. Right now, we have a little more than 12,000 citizens who are on board in our database, but our goal is coming up, I would hope to do this in the next years, to work to get most everybody in our utilities over into our database. So that is our goal. Total is $7,524.56, and I am asking for approval.
Thank you. Questions for Anna Lee on this item?
Just a question, I think I heard you saying work session, this also is a text?
Yes, yes. So they're able to decide whether or not they want to receive it via phone call. It will come in almost like a voice recording, text message, and email.
So was that on the previous system? Because I get it on my home phone.
It is. So this is the one that's been in use for several years. I can add you if you would like to get text messages.
I'll do that.
Could you have your cell phone number, please?
Texas just got it.
How, if somebody wanted to sign up for that service, Anna Lee, how would they do that?
Well, I'm glad you asked. They can go on our website, cityofcartersville.org. There's an option to do it from the homepage there. It's also something that I posted on our Facebook page, and I realized that it does gain popularity. I put it on there, a link to sign up, explained what it is that it does for the citizens, why these types of alerts are important. I think we had about 20 signups from that, just that one day. I was quite impressed.
Wonderful. Thank you. Any other discussion? And if not, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve.
All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Forsythe.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Council, this is a change order number 4 for our water pollution control plant upgrade. We're just over 80% complete with that project, which is due to wrap up in October of this year by contract. They're actually about 30 days ahead of that schedule right now. This change order increases the contract cost by $19,895.02. Including this change order, that brings the total cost to $37,064,136.44, which is still about $500,000 less than the original contract price. I recommend this for your approval.
Thank you. Questions, comments, or motions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Sidney. Mr. Menino, you have that added item, please, sir.
Thank you, Mayor, Chairman, and Council. This particular item, 197 Edgewater Drive, the property was part of the first-time home buyers program. The property owners have fulfilled their obligation of that program. They are looking to refinance their home at this time. Again, it's a standard process, and since they fulfilled their obligation, we do recommend your approval to authorize the release with quick claim deed.
Thank you. Questions, comments, or motions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Reinhardt, give us the good news.
I will do my best. Honorable Mayor and Council, we will be looking at the financial report for November 2020 and comparing to November 2019. General fund revenues decreased from last November by $1.8 million. Expenses decreased by $609,000. Two areas of revenue I look at on a monthly basis are local option sales tax, have a slight increase there of about $12,000. Building permits and inspection fees have a decrease there of $65,000. Water and sewer fund revenues decreased over last November by $552,000. Expenses decreased by $1.2 million due to increased personnel expenses, increased operating expenses, decreased capital expenses, decreased in debt service, and decreased transfers to the general fund. In the gas fund, revenues decreased from last November by $787,000. Expenses increased by $363,000 due to increased personnel expenses, decreased operating expenses, decreased cost of purchased gas, increased capital expenses, decreased debt service, and increased transfers to the general fund. Electric fund revenues decreased from last year by $784,000. Expenses decreased by $26,000 due to increased personnel costs, decreased operating expenses, decreased cost of purchase of electricity, increased capital expenditures, and increased transfers to the general fund. Stormwater fund revenues decreased over last November by $77,000. Expenses increased by just about $1,000. This is due to increased personnel expenses, decreased operating expenses, and increased capital expenses. In the solid waste fund, revenues decreased from last November by $20,000. Expenses decreased by $331,000 due to increased personnel expenses, decreased operating expenses, and decreased capital expenses. Finally, in the final fiber optics fund, revenues increased from last November by $26,000. Expenses decreased by $55,000. This is due to increased personnel expenses, decreased operating expenses, decreased capital expenses, and increased transfers to the general fund.
Thank you.
Last but not least, the cash position and the total restricted cash has increased slightly, and total restricted cash has also increased. That's my report for the evening.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Ned?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, as Tom alluded to, the electric, stormwater, solid waste, and fiber funds are doing good through this part of the year, through November. Gas, as you know, was through the November time period, it starts getting colder, so December should turn that around. I did want to point out a couple things I shared with each of you in the memo. Basically, the general fund, the revenues are a little bit lower than last year, but I did find out and do more research that the property taxes, thanks to the finance department, gave us more information. The collections, we got a payment that was posted $1.2 million in early December, so that was a reflection of why it was a little different, less than last year through November. We got more collected last November in 2019 through 2020, but that'll pick back up in December. And as I shared in that chart, it kind of gave you a couple other changes from last year. This year, is we sold the old Fire Station 3, which had additional $475,000 of revenue in 2019 versus 2020. But overall, we're doing fairly well in the general fund. It'll, like I said, it'll pick up when we get that additional property tax posting in December. But as you can see, the better news is we're holding line on the expenses. They're about $600,000 less than last year through November on the general fund. So we're doing it well financially there.
And I know we all know how lean that budget was.
Yes.
So thank you to every department head and everybody on staff for continuing to squeeze as much blood out of that turnip as we can. So thank you.
Thank you.
One question, and I don't know, I mean, obviously, we started this, about a year or two, once we were on getting these on a monthly basis, sort of seeing. One thing that I'd like to see is our SPOS accounts. So like how much is in each SPOS. I know we get that stuff throughout the year, but I know on a monthly basis it would be nice to see. I know we still have some money in some other funds, but that might be nice to, I say we see our lost, but we don't ever get to sort of see on a monthly basis where those SPOS accounts are all.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you.
I can give you a current estimate as of November. SPOS 2003 had roughly $30,000 in it. Of course, that's the account that we're using for the Dolphin Ferry Road project to keep it alive. 2007, there's no funds left in it. 2014, there's about 450,000, I think. And then 2020, SPOS has a current balance of about 1.2 million in it.
Just off the top of your head.
Off the top of my head.
Everybody write that down.
Grace, can you
Ireland.
show me see?
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
All right. Any other business that needs to come before council tonight? I will turn it over to Dan. With the family's permission, I want to tell you a little bit about Bob Jones.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, as trying to share updates on Bob Jones, obviously, he's been in the hospital for several weeks now in Floyd County. Over the last couple of days, had some improvements, but just kind of remind everybody, if you keep the prayers going, he has, back on January 14th, he was placed on a ventilator. He had COVID pneumonia. It took several visits, basically 5 tests to go back to early December before he was finally admitted and got positive tests. But over the last couple of days, he has had some improvements. His wife continues to text either myself or Sydney or somebody in the water department on daily updates, and she's hopeful for the best, that he's going to continue to improve. They did find some infection the other day, which I think was part of the reason why he hasn't improved drastically sooner, but hopefully with some additional medication, it'll help that. But please keep him in your prayers, and he will hopefully get back to us sooner than we expected.
Yes, and his favorite slogan, I think, for theirs as a family is "Come on, love."
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just wanted to pass on well wishes to Bob and his family, and also extend thanks. I know Sydney's already left, but to Sydney and everybody at the water department who's going about some pretty big projects in the absence of somebody who means an awful lot to them and to all of us. So just wanted to make sure that we recognize that and let Bob and his family know that we're thinking about them. So. Any other business that needs to come before council tonight? If not, Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Will not get her on for that. Stay good.